Hello, welcome to Signal Noise Podcast brought to you by Market Once and ROI Rocket. My name is Brian Lamar, your co-host, along with Andrew DeSillis. How are you, sir?
I'm great. I just saw you in person like an hour ago, and
Yeah, an
then
hour ago we're eating.
listen to some podcasts in the car. So there we
Yeah,
go. My little commute to Cincinnati to see real people.
yeah, that's fun. Always fun. Joining me today, you were on the old podcast, I think, Erin Sowell,
Yep.
and she is the owner, principal, consultant, researcher of Thoughtful Research. That's not how I told you I'd introduce you at all, but you're all those things.
Yes, yes. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, yeah. I've always been impressed with your career, and I want to talk about your career progression and what you're doing today. And I think it's a really cool story.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm excited to I always learn something different when talking to you, because you have such a different, kind of a unique perspective on what we do, and your background's relatively unique, at least for our space. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll start off with that, like your background.
Yeah. So I come here from education in environmental science. I was a part of the entrepreneurial community when I was in college, and that's how I found market research. I was working on a product, and we were encouraged in the discovery phase to go out and do our own research. At the time, I did not know that there was a whole industry that did this work. But I just, I loved the discovery process and understanding unmet needs and what opportunities existed in the market. And I loved applying that to my own work. And then, really wanted to pursue a career where I could work with clients and bring that information to clients.
And then I think your biggest career move of all time is joining the University of Georgia, the Masters of Marketing Research program.
Yeah.
How did you decide on that?
Yeah, yeah. So, at the time when, when I was just first learning about the industry, I did a bunch of informational interviews, which, makes sense. Like becoming a researcher, of course, you're going to go and do the research on your future industry, right? So I did a bunch of informational interviews with people in the industry, and the MMR program at the University of Georgia kept coming up. So I, of course, wanted to pursue education and go to the program, which was major. It's a great foundation for a career in insights.
Sorry, I was just saying, Aaron, you actually remain very involved in the program as well.
Yep, yep. So now I am on the advisory board and involved with the board committee, have a chair position. So I'm the chair of communications and relations for the board, and I work with them on board meetings and chairing the Insights Night event that we have every year, where we bring in a speaker and it's a networking evening. And now I'm working on the Future of Insight Summit committee.
Exciting. And I think I met you early on in your career. You had moved to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
You worked at 8451 briefly, and I tell you every time I talk to you, I think that I'm mad at you that you moved away, but probably a good career move and closer to home. I know you're from Georgia, but you also have an interesting kind of career arc in that you worked kind of both supply and client side
Yeah.
earlier in your marketing research career. Did How did that kind of affect your decision making when you decided to kind of open your own company? Like, you had kind of seen both sides of the research. Did you just decide I could do it better? I have advantages, or I see a gap in the marketplace. Like, that's really interesting to me.
Yeah. So let's see. When I was leaving the MMR program, or graduating from the program and starting my career, I looked at my different, the different options that I could take, and I saw 8451, and I really valued it because I could get like a very broad experience there. So like 8451 is a hybrid, and like in of itself, it's like a client slash supplier hybrid.
Yeah.
So that was very appealing. And then the methods that you're using, it wasn't just qual or quant. It was like a combination of qual and quant, DIY research, working with vendors. It was just this, very hybrid type experience. So I got to learn about a very broad, I got a very broad skill set very quickly. So I really valued that experience. And then after my time at 8451, went on to Georgia Pacific, and I was working on their innovation insights team. So like very like fuzzy front end, understanding what are the opportunities for, the different categories on the B2B side of the business. And then, working with those clients to understand where do they want to go? Where are the opportunities? How do we align that? And that was also had some hybrid components too, where you have a big toolbox. You have some of your quant, you have some of your qual tools, and bringing all those together and connecting with clients and doing the storytelling around insights also. So I got
And
this.
that brought you to
Yeah.
thoughtful research.
Yes, yes. So I had this very broad skill set.
Yeah.
A love for bringing different types of data together and understanding clients and where they want to go, and using information and research to get clients to where they want to go. So it's very broad background, a broad tool set, and then just the entrepreneurial spirit that I've always had since growing up. Wanting to go out and really explore the industry and see where my tool set could take me and take my clients.
And it sounds like, based upon what I know about you and what you kind of just described, is you've had kind of a supply side and client side experience, and you've had a lot of methodology exposure experience, at least in that part of your career. And I think that's rather unique, and probably really give you a leg up when you're starting your own business, because it's not the same today, but when I was in school, qualitative and quantitative were very two distinct paths that had no overlap. And
Yeah.
qualitative researchers did not understand quantitative, and quantitative researchers didn't understand qualitative, even though they work hand in hand. A lot of the clients, the brands did, but a lot of the researchers themselves were really focused on that one skill set. I think that's changed as a system and in our industry, though, over the past few years out of necessity. But you really got a kind of I think you got an early leg into understanding and being an expert in both methodologies, and I'm sure that helps you today in what you're doing today.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the industry went from being, more specialized, or, you
Yeah.
specialize in quant, you specialize in qual, specialize in advanced analytics, and now it's, there's more integration of these different methods and you know, more of a nuanced, complex understanding versus just answering questions.
Yeah, I like to think of it as I remember a lot of people say, I have a quant study coming up, or I have a qual study coming up. And I like it. This is how it should be. People say, here, I have some business objectives.
Yeah.
Here's my business problem. And then getting creative to try to solve that business problem. That's my kind of skill set. I kind of did the same thing you did, only I did it over like a 15-year period instead of like a 3-year period. That my skill set was designed for, here's my business problem. I don't know how to solve it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where our industry is headed. And I'm hoping that, there's lots of people out there like you that are earlier in their career and have understanding of broad methodology solutions and options that are in place, and qual and quant, and how you can kind of do the same them at the same time.
Mhm.
Do you do that a lot when you're advising clients?
What's the question?
Do you combine methodologies, or do you have to think
Yeah.
creatively when you're solving business problems for your clients?
Yes, yes. That's like pretty much the core of thoughtful
Okay.
research is integrating insights, and a lot of our projects will be qual and quant, or a survey with database analysis, bringing these different data sources together for a more complete picture of what's going on. And it is more focused on like the business objectives versus like the research objectives. So
Yes.
people will come to us and say, share their business objectives. How do we get there? Versus more of like a traditional insights type relationship where it's more, I want to do this methodology or have this specific research objective. And I think that that's where the whole industry is going to an extent, right? It's like a little bit more consultative and focused on the guidance that insights can bring versus just delivering answers.
Tell us a little bit about the types of work you're doing. Obviously, we just said it's mixed methodology. You're consulting on what methodologies to deploy. But thoughtful research as a whole, are there any things that you specialize in? There are particular client types that you're working with. Give us a sense for what your kind of day to day looks like from a research perspective.
Yeah, yeah. It is that like integrated insights, like how do we bring, different data sources together to tell, compelling stories that are going to influence clients and their stakeholders. And, the clients that we work with tend to be, working through insights companies with their clients, but then also, clients regional to Atlanta, Southeast, and middle market type companies or larger companies.
Could you give us an example of a project that involved that integrated insight, right? A lot of us and a lot of our listeners are working more in that traditional capacity where a client comes and says, "Hey, we need to do an ad test. Here are the 16 ad tests, rinse and repeat," right? Though we've been hearing more and more about integrated intelligence. And if you could share a concrete example of here's the type of survey we did, or here's the type of qualitative interview that we did and the client had this data set. Here's how we combined it to get to something novel. Without giving away, of course, anything that you can't share.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear a good example of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think a good example is, this project that we did last year. It was, a client came to us. They did not, or they had a product that they launched, and the product was not doing well, and it was not expected. They were, they had customers come to them asking for the specific product, and so they created it thinking that there was, that there were that market existed, and then it just didn't take off the way they were expecting. So they didn't know why. So it was like a diagnostic type project. So at first we did qualitative research with that, their current customer base or their current distributors, to understand, what's going on. Like, what are you hearing? What do people think of this? Who is this product for? Those types of questions. So starting off with that qualitative research to really try to understand and diagnose like what's going on with this product. So, we didn't know, was it like, is there no market for this product? Is it a positioning issue? Is it a communications issue? What's going on? So we did that initial research to understand, and we found, hey, there is a need for this product, and it's differentiated from other products in the market. It sounds like it's a positioning issue where the brand isn't highlighting exactly what makes it different and exactly why people should be buying it over others. So it ended up being, positioning, but then also targeting, because it's kind of like we have this product that's great, but you can't go after every single person at once, right? You need to have a specific group, a specific subset of your target to go to first. So you can just, pick up inertia. You can build inertia by targeting the people who need it the most. So we followed that up with a survey to understand, how does this product compare to the competitors? and where, like, what are the most important needs, and what are the gaps for the competitors within those most important needs, so then they can, position themselves against their competition and prioritize, what's most important to the customers. And then identify exactly who that, prime target market is, like
Mm.
that first group to start with within the broader target. So we, started off with that qual and then into the quant, but it was that kind of project where they didn't know what was going on. They wanted that outside perspective to really understand what the issue was and how to move forward. So a little bit more consultative than the average project probably.
So when they come to you with, "Oh my gosh, we have this great product that people wanted and it's not selling," do you immediately go into, "Okay, we're gonna do some qualitative research, and then we're gonna do a follow-up and try to understand this, this, and this, and this," and or is it flexible enough? Like, because you don't know the results of the qualitative, right? The
Yeah.
results of the so how does that's something that I'm probably have not had in my career, at least in a long time, of here's our business problem. Here's all the steps you need to take. And is step two kind of up in the air, or step four? Is it this is up in the air? It's dependent upon the research that we conduct. Is that how that kind of works?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
that one was, let's start with some interviews to understand what it is. And we know we can do a survey, but we don't know exactly what that survey is
yeah.
going to be for. But let's see what the qualitative research says, and then we can adjust. But generally know that it's going to be a survey. It's going to be, however long, and we're going to talk to this group, and kind of have a base plan that we can build upon.
And the client's aware of that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Because they've got a budget for it. At least put some placeholders in, right? The TBD
Mhm.
might cost us this much and take this long. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
And what were the results of that project? Everyone made millions of dollars and lived happily ever after, and the product is super hot.
That's the dream, right?
Yeah.
But they reposition their product. It's a product in the B2B space, so it's
Mhm,
not
mhm.
something that we interface with, but I think they're on the right track.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
When we had coffee in Atlanta several weeks ago, you had discussed with me that, in your position as kind of like hanging your own shingle, right? You're a small, agile shop. You've kind of found this niche of working with not just kind of middle market, right? Some of your larger clients, like you said, you're working through other insights firms who need someone like yourself to come in and help them, but that you're also working with companies who maybe like haven't even done research before.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That was just so fascinating to me when we were having coffee, and I would just love to do a deeper dive there because it's such an interesting sales position to be in where not only do you have to sell in the value of the research you're proposing,
Mhm.
but like you have to sell in the value like of research,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then not only that, but when you're proposing methodologies, when you're going through the results, and you're doing all this, like there's such a level of like white glove hand holding that I imagine you have to do. Just kind of walk us through like what that kind of engagement is like when the client is new to research.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's you're starting a client's relationship not just with your own company and with thoughtful research, but also like research at large. So I take that very very seriously, and it's important that we're starting off, people having that relationship off on the right foot. But I think if somebody is curious about research and they haven't done it before, or they've been doing you know, um, web analytics and things that are a little bit easier than primary research, or any type of larger research initiative, they're curious, right? Like they're curious, they want to learn typically, and that's great. it's like sharing the magic of research with people who want to learn and who are curious. So I love that part of it, and educating on the different methodologies, and hearing what their business problem is, and presenting our different options or different ways that this could go, based on their needs, and explaining why this methodology, and this is what this methodology will bring. And not only that, here's the impact that this research is going to bring. So I think that working with clients that don't have that much experience with insights, like it's very like white space, which is great for developing, building insights into their decision making process. So if they're coming to me or they're coming to thoughtful research, they're curious and they want to bring it into their decision making process in some way. So it's just talking with them and educating them on the value of research, but then also what does this process actually look like, and what does it take to bring it to make it a reality.
That's fantastic. It's been said that one of the most like attractive or most joyful things is to hear someone who's really passionate about something talk about something they're passionate about, right?
Yeah,
Whether that's marketing research or fishing or crypto or like whatever that person's excited about. So I can imagine that that's like a really enjoyable process for you to kind of, in research, we're all kind of nerdy, right? But like
yeah.
to get you to you're able to like nerd out about this and be like, look, here's this kind of test, we can do it to solve your problem. That must be so exciting.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes it's like amazing, like,
Mhm.
whoa, you can do that? Like who would have known? So that's exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm sure it's not all rainbows and unicorns though. What are some of the unique challenges of working with someone who's not familiar with research?
Well, I think, research can be expensive. The
Mhm.
price of research has certainly come down over the past 10 or so years, but research is still expensive. So there can be that sticker price shock sometimes. But there are ways to work with clients' budgets, and ways that are more robust and more exploratory. And it just kind of depends on what the client's budget is, and what the questions are, and the goals of the research are. So, there's a method or an approach that can be crafted. But I think it is, that sticker price shock sometimes can be challenging.
Do you ever have to compete with other, like, marketing functions? For example, I would imagine someone that doesn't do a lot of research, may not know the value of research, and sees the sticker price, could say, "Well, I could put $20,000 towards some LinkedIn advertising, or this, rather than research." Do you find yourself having to kind of sell research versus the advantages of it versus other options that they have?
Not like that, not that kind of
Yeah.
direct, but I think it comes down to, like DIY, or
Uh,
yeah, and people thinking like they can do the research themselves, and DIY can be very useful and great, but you're
you could do a
research is
lot of bad
about,
research.
yeah, it's about creating a strong decision making foundation, and if you're
Yeah.
not a trained researcher, then that foundation might be shaky and you might not make such good decisions, and that might not be good for the business. So it's that can be, a little tricky sometimes.
Well, I kind of addressed a little bit of some my latest blog is that we're not an accredited industry, and anyone can just go out there and use a DIY tool and think they're doing a great segmentation survey or getting some great customer feedback. And you know, we could discuss for hours how many problems that could arise from that if you're not really trained on that. So, especially for those researchers that are just trying to do a couple little studies to understand their customer and business problems like that, I would highly recommend don't going the DIY route. Like working with someone like yourself, I'm sure is
Yeah.
so much more valuable.
Yeah. And you get, if you're an organization who hasn't done research or hasn't done primary research and you go and do a DIY study or work with someone who hasn't been trained as a researcher to provide that research, you kind of get like one shot or like it's like what do they say? Uh like first impressions. You get
Yeah,
one first impression, right? To create that like great insights program. And if you go with your first impression being kind of like a DIY,
yeah,
not a study that doesn't might not hold up, then that
right.
is going to be great for your organization's relationship with research in the future.
Andrew, I have a personal question for you too, but I don't want to change directions if you've got other questions for Erin.
Yeah, I do. And hopefully we can keep it just a little bit short here, Aaron, because this is a topic that could be a 2 hour seminar. But I mean, capable of having a conversation with someone in Q1 and Q2 of 2026 without asking a question about artificial intelligence and
Yeah.
how you're deploying it. And it's a big reason that a lot of people are listening to the podcast right now is, the updates around it. Here's the question. I imagine that because you're a small shop and you own that shop, right? You are the woman in charge. You have a lot more agility in the deployment and testing and experimentation and in use cases of artificial intelligence in the research pipeline as compared to most of our listeners. Um, I would just love to hear what you're using, where you're using it, how you're using it, when you're using it. Just what artificial intelligence looks like at thoughtful research, given that you probably have less restrictions than a lot of the people who are working at larger agencies or brands.
Yeah, well, my restrictions are, it depends by client, right? It's like you
Mhm.
gotta do with
Mhm.
the clients, what the client wants, when it comes to AI. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we don't have any, that or that we have less restrictions. But yeah, I think we've found the most use for AI for qualitative research, analyzing qualitative data. I think that's common. Might be a common answer for the industry. Some easy application areas there, but then also like we have a forecasting capability, and we've been doing more work around like leading indicators and how do we be able to predict change before it happens. So and alert people of or clients of change. So AI certainly has a place in that work. So we're working towards that.
And are you building that probably agentically, right? Sort of like an always on research agent going out, collecting that data, and then an LLM is processing it. Is that about right?
That could be an approach. There are multiple approaches for
Mhm.
this, and it just depends on what the client's wanting and how what their policies are around AI.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing, Brian. I'll,
Yeah.
I'll hand it back over to you for some personal questions to close us out.
Well, I was thinking about it while you two were talking. Erin, you're getting married soon, right?
Yeah, 1 month,
What day are you getting married? Do you mind sharing?
the 2nd, May 2nd, yeah.
May 2nd.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're getting married next month also. What,
That's
May 20
May
something?
23rd.
May
Yes.
23rd? Curious. I'm talking to two research nerds, relatively the same age in this industry. Did you all use research or AI? I know the answer for Andrew in this one. Did you use research or AI when planning your wedding or any type of your skill set for your professional day life to your personal wedding? Just curious, Aaron.
That's a good question. So I have the event planning excuse me, I have the event planning experience, from, Insights Night, in
Okay.
the MMR events. So that has definitely come in handy for working on your wedding and you know working with all the vendors and figuring out all the details and who's doing what.
A
So
little dry run for an event. I like that.
yeah, yeah. There's definitely more vendors for a wedding though. So that's helpful. And then like I think like using your ChatGPT or whatever AI you're using, generative AI you're using, to I don't know, to brainstorm the details or to
Yeah.
try to
Mhm.
organize the details to an extent or, edit this phrasing for my invitations or my wedding website or, things like that.
Okay. Interesting. I'm not gonna let Andrew nerd out too long on this one, but Andrew, tell everybody what you've been doing.
I know he rolls his eyes because I'm an aggressive adopter. I'll try to do the so one thing that we all kind of laugh about is my fiance's name is Brooke, and we joke that type A is for Andrew and type B is for Brooke. And bless her, she is not a decisive person, but is a perfectionist, which is a really bad combination, right? And so I actually wrote surveys for her when making major decisions throughout this process. So it would be, like here are 6 photographers and choose these photos. Which photo do you like better, right? Almost like a little bit of like a max diff kind of situation. What is your priority here? Rank these vendors based on that, right? And so then at the end, we'd go through the data together and look at the results. And then she's like, oh, well, that's why that person is my first choice. And that really helped us through some of the more difficult selections throughout. I'll just share my most recent AI powered use of this in wedding planning. I have Perplexity Computer, which is very, very powerful, and I've been experimenting with that a lot. And last night I had it code an application for seating charts. So I'm able to upload the guest list to my exact floor plan. In each chair, I can click on and put a person in there. I can drag and drop, and I can do all of that stuff. And it one-shotted it. I told it what it needed to do, uploaded a PDF of the floor plan, and about 20 minutes later, I had that web app. So we're doing our seating chart on a homegrown Perplexity Computer web app.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's the next thing I gotta do.
Yeah. Send me the PDF of your floor plan. I'll get you the web app.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Before we go, I wanted to say thank you for all the stuff you do for the University of Georgia, our alma mater.
Yeah.
You've just been amazing for the past few years and helping organize it and bring people together and all the events and stuff. And so, thank you for that. I know you're very passionate about that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the UGA community is very special. And I really enjoy being a part of it. And it's just great to bring people together and we all love this space, so gotta love it.
If people want to reach out to you for thoughtful research questions, how can they do that?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name's Erin Sowell, Sowell. And then Thoughtful Research is on LinkedIn also, and we have our website, thoughtfulresearch.com.
Awesome. Erin, thank you as always. Great to see you. Good luck with the wedding. I don't know if I'll talk to you before then, but
Thanks.
it's supposed to be wonderful. And Andrew, thanks for joining. Good luck with your wedding too. I'll probably see you before then. And to all our listeners, thanks so much. Have a great day.